There and back again. A Goggins Tale. Part 17. Ghost Protocol. The golden halls of Meadowseld loomed ahead, sunlight catching on the carved ridges of its roof like fire upon a crown. Outside its gates, rows of tents had already sprung up across the fields, tidy, symmetrical, and Spartan. No banners flew, no music played, except the sound of masculine grunts and testosterone-fueled chants of "Stay Hard." The battalion had arrived. They stood in formation, men, elves, and dwarves of sheer will and focus, trained at the hands of the Lord Goggins. These were not the fresh-faced recruits who had once followed Goggins out of Rivendell. They were now the veterans of Helm's Deep, soldiers who had stared into the abyss and spat in its eye. As the riders approached, a ripple moved through the battalion. Swords did not rattle, armor did not clink, but every man there straightened at the sight of their approaching commander. Lord Goggins was the only traveler without a mount. He arrived drenched in sweat. Shirt off, scarred, eyes intense, almost to the point of bulging. He walked past Aragorn and the others still upon their horses and strode into the center of the formation before stopping. "Attention," he began, pointing to no one and everyone. "Y'all were hard motherfuckers at Helm's Deep. I'm proud of each and every single one of you sons of bitches." A grunt of approval rippled through the gathered soldiers. "But what's coming?" Goggins continued, voice loud as a bullhorn. "That's a whole new level. This ain't some fairy tale ending with hugs and fucking kumbaya. This is Mordor, man. Like the Israel of Middle-earth. It's gonna be hell, and I can't fucking wait." He let the words hang for a moment. "You don't train for this shit," he said, pacing slowly in front of them. "You live it. No cheers, no clapping, just nods, slow, obedient." He stopped again, looking out across the ranks. "Now tell me, who's gonna carry the boats?" The battalion replied in perfect, thunderous unison. "We are." "Damn fucking right you are," Goggins growled, eyes fierce with pride. He turned back to Aragorn, who sat arms crossed, impressed and perhaps a little envious. Gimli muttered to Legolas, "These are hard warriors, every one of them." They entered the city and climbed the steps to the great doors of Meadowseld. The hall glowed with firelight, banners swaying above them. The scent of roasted meats and baked bread rose through the air. King Theoden, who had arrived with them, walked to his throne and took his seat. "We have returned victorious," he declared. "Gondor does not yet know it, but hope now returns." He gestured Goggins and the others to sit beside him on seats which had been arranged for them. "Lord Goggins, there are no words fit for the deeds done by your hand and by your warriors. Rohan is forever grateful. I name you friend of the Rittermark." Goggins nodded. "I appreciate that, brother. I'm all about exterminating rats." The king smiled. "Then tonight, we feast in your honor." And so they did. Tables were drawn, mead poured, and platters piled high. The men of Rohan mingled with elves, dwarves, and hobbits, somewhat cautiously, as one does when introduced to a new breed of unpredictable farm animal. Even Golem appeared to be enjoying himself, seated beneath table with a suspicious bowl of fish stew. Goggins sat at the head table beside the king, bare-chested as ever, eating roasted boar with his hands and drinking straight from the mead jug like he was chugging Gatorade. At one point, an amused Aragorn leaned over. "Do the Valar not use cutlery?" Goggins wiped his mouth with his forearm. "I am the fucking cutlery." Aragorn had no comeback to that. The hall was thick with laughter, cheer and tales, until the marshal approached from behind, clearing his throat. "My Lord Goggins," he said, bowing slightly in sign of respect. "I see you are a man of strength and great appetite." Goggins gave a sideways glance. "You got something to say, or you just trying to hit on me, man?" "No, my lord. I bring to you a token of our gratitude." The marshal stepped aside, revealing a woman of such formidable presence the surrounding members of the Fellowship winced. She was broad-shouldered, deep-chested, and clearly built for siege warfare rather than courtship. "This," Eomer said proudly, "is Hilda, Tavern Matron. Few can match her stamina, and fewer still survive her affections." Her grin was wide, her teeth fewer than ideal, her bosom a direct threat to the structural integrity of her dress. Goggins blinked slowly. "This bitch?" said Goggins, looking her up and down, unimpressed. "Come on, that's a fucking dude, man." An awkward silence fell over the table. "I know you fuckers love your horses, but this ride ain't for me." Goggins turned toward Sam. "Sam, you still single, right?" Sam nearly choked on his mead. Muttering something about Rosie, cheeks burning red, he asked to be excused and fled the hall. "What about you, Frodo? Wanna practice destroying a ring tonight? Looks like she'd probably destroy yours first, though." "No thank you, Mr. Goggins." Unfazed, the woman turned her gaze elsewhere. Goggins followed it, and there, crouched beside a meat platter, was Gollum. Goggins snapped his fingers. "Yo, Smeagol." Gollum looked up as he chewed. Goggins gestured toward the tavern wench. "What you think?" "She's got your smile, man." Gollum's eyes went wide, pupils dilating like he'd just remembered it was his birthday. "Yes," he hissed excitedly. "We wants it." "Yes." Goggins' fist bumped him. "My man." Laughter returned to the hall. Gimli leaned in toward Legolas, who hadn't touched his wine since the woman had entered. "She's got the shoulders of a cave troll, that one." Legolas took a delicate sip. "And the voice of one too, I fear." The feast carried on, occasionally interrupted by Hilda's loud laughter, which startled the company more than once. Later that night, as the fires dimmed and the songs turned to whispers, Goggins stood at the hall's entrance, arms crossed. Gollum scurried up beside him, a look of victory and satisfaction plastered across his emaciated face. Goggins gave him a nod. "So, how was it?" Gollum shuddered. "Smelled of fishies and orcsies." "Good enough," Goggins said, slapping him on the back. They watched the stars a moment longer, then returned inside. As the feast drew to a close, the doors of Meadowsild opened once more. This time the Lady Awen entered, dressed in white and gold. Her sharp eyes immediately found Lord Goggins. She approached with the grace of a shield maiden and the look of a woman who had already made up her mind. "My Lord Goggins," she said, offering a polite nod to the king before locking eyes with the sweat-slicked warrior seated beside him. "You return from Isengard victorious. Tell me, how fares our enemy, the wizard Saruman?" Goggins, holding a leg of roast boar between his teeth, looked up. "Turned him from that dark shit. Now he's rolling with us." Aragorn leaned in. He was subdued, then humbled. "He rides now for Gondor with Gandalf." The lady smiled, politely at first, but it lingered. A little too long. Her eyes did not so much wander as park themselves on Goggins' pectorals, now glistening with roast boar drippings. She stepped forward and whispered, so only he could hear. "Then I owe you my thanks, Lord. Perhaps you would allow me to show you my gratitude this night?" "All right, let's do it, bitch. But I'ma finish my boar first." The lady's smile widened. She turned and walked from the hall without another word, not once looking back, knowing full well Goggins would follow. And he did. At first it began with a low thump. Then another. Then the sound of wood groaning under pressure. And then screams from somewhere deep within the home of the lady. The king was called, and he deemed the wraith Goggins had killed may now be possessing the lady, and the Lord Goggins was in there saving her as he had done the king. The screams echoed off the walls as the sun rose. The peasants inside their homes clutched their children. Horses reared. Chickens dropped eggs out of fear. Aragorn grimaced. Should we intervene? The king shook his head. We must not interfere in the Lord Goggins' work. The screams rose to a crescendo, and then silence. A final sigh, drawn out like an evil spirit being evicted. Moments later, Goggins reappeared at the doorway. Shirtless, steam rising from his skin like a war forge. His expression feral. "That bitch gon' need 4 or 5 days," he said, patting the king on the back as he passed. Nobody said a word. The morning light broke over the city, crisp and pale. Inside the Golden Hall, the War Council gathered to debate their next move. "My lords," the king began, "the enemy gathers. Gondor must not stand alone. My riders shall muster. We ride at dawn." "Glad I am to hear this news," said Aragorn. "But we will not be with you." Murmurs rippled through the hall. Goggins stood, stretching like a panther. "My battalion rides with y'all. They'll roll with the Rohirrim to Gondor and take Merry with them. But I want to go with," began Merry, but he was cut off by Goggins angrily. "Shut the fuck up, little man. You got your orders now. Go join the men camped outside." They followed Merry outside where, from atop the steps of the Golden Hall, Goggins could see his soldiers standing in perfect formation. "Who's gonna carry the boats?" he bellowed. "We gonna carry them," came the reply. Goggins nodded once. "Then stay hard, motherfuckers. It is an army bred for one purpose," said Aragorn to the king, but he was heard by Goggins, who turned to him, finishing his sentence. "To do what the fuck they're ordered," he bellowed. The king inclined his head in appreciation. "We ride for Gondor. Expect us in 5 days." As the horn sounded and the Rohirrim began their march, Goggins turned to Aragorn. "Let's go invade that mountain, brother. The paths of the dead." By midday, they reached the edge of the Dimholt. The air was stale and heavy. Before them rose the black mouth of the mountain. Gollum sniffed the air and grinned. "We smells it," he muttered. "Smell what?" Smeagol asked Frodo. "Home," answered Gollum. Aragorn stepped forward. "These are the paths of the dead, haunted by cursed men who broke their oaths. None who enter are promised return." "Then you better get the fuck out the way," Goggins growled, snapping 2 thick branches from a gnarled old tree. He lashed them into a rough cross using a piece of rope torn from his bootlace. Sam, blinking, whispered, "What's he doing?" Aragorn didn't take his eyes off Goggins. "It's a symbol of the Valar capable of warding off evil." Goggins slung it across his back like a shield. "Let's go," he said. Before they entered, the lady appeared, breathless and clad in armor beneath her cloak. "Please," she said, her voice trembling. "Let me ride with you." "Bitch, how you get here so fast?" asked Goggins in surprise. "I would not be parted from you." She grimaced as the horse moved beneath her, her discomfort evident. Aragorn tried a gentler tact. "This is not your path, lady. You are needed elsewhere with your people." Her face fell. Goggins patted her shoulder once and walked past her without another word. And with that, they entered the mountain, leaving behind the lady. Meanwhile, en route to Minas Tirith, the wind howled as they rode through the open plains, the white mountains visible in the distance. Shadowfax galloped swift as the wind, hooves barely touching the ground. Gandalf's cloak billowed behind him, Pippin clinging to his waist like a terrified child. Trailing behind on borrowed steeds, Saruman and Boromir followed in silence until the old wizard finally spoke. "I suppose I owe you an explanation," Saruman said, his voice brittle in the cold air. Gandalf did not look back. "You owe your life and more." Saruman exhaled. "I saw the eye. I saw the fire, the ruin to come, and I believed it unstoppable. So I bent the knee. What was to be gained from resisting certain defeat?" Gandalf said nothing. Saruman continued, "But then, "The Lord Goggins." Gandalf finally turned his head, eyes squinting through wind. "That man," Saruman muttered, shaking his head, "is not of this world." Gandalf smiled. "It is he who broke the siege of Helm's Deep, ran without rest from Weathertop to Bree, and then on to save the Ringbearer in the Shire. He killed a wraith with naught but a dagger at the ford of Isen and silenced the mouth of Sauron using the palantir you yourself succumbed to." Saruman blinked. "But how?" "He is not of this world. I believe him to be one of the Valar, cloaked in secrecy." Saruman shivered, unsure whether it was the cold or the creeping dread of inadequacy. "All while I made machines of war, raised armies of orcs," he muttered. "He has brought you out of darkness and back into the light, as he did with Gollum," Gandalf replied. Saruman sighed. "I have lived many ages, Gandalf, and yet I have never before seen one capable, perhaps, of standing alone against the Dark Lord himself. How has he resisted the temptation of the ring?" Gandalf glanced back, eyes fierce under his brow. "His will is perhaps stronger than that of the ring itself. He is not drawn to it like others. Perhaps there is a chance he alone possesses the strength to bend it to his will." The white towers of Gondor rose before them like marble spears from the cliffs of rock. Layer upon layer of tiered walls curled around the mountainside. At the gate, horns sounded. Boromir rode ahead, straight-backed and proud, joy upon his face. The guards at the gate dropped to one knee, their hands on their hearts. "Captain Boromir," one of them called. "The Lord Boromir returns." Inside the city, word spread like wildfire. Bells rang out. Children ran ahead, shouting his name. Women threw petals from balconies. Old men wept, as if the bloodline of kings had risen again. Boromir dismounted at the foot of the citadel steps. He turned to the people, raising his hand. "I return not alone," he said, "but with allies, at a time when war is on our horizon." Behind him, Saruman rode in slow and silent. The people recoiled in fear until Boromir called, "Do not fear. He has come to aid us in our time of need." And though the city remained uneasy, none spoke against him. They climbed the white steps of the citadel beneath the gaze of stone-carved kings. At the summit, past guards in black and silver livery, the great doors opened. In the throne hall of the steward, Denethor sat upon the stone seat beneath the great empty throne of the kings. His shoulders slumped as if in defeat. His eyes, hollow and red-rimmed, were locked upon a cloven horn cradled in his lap. "The horn of Gondor, broken clean in two," he whispered to it. "I sent you north," he murmured, "to Rivendell, to seek counsel, not to die." Boromir entered without herald. Removing his helm, he bowed low. "Father." Denethor did not raise his head at first, but then his fingers froze upon the horn. He looked up slowly, disbelieving. His mouth opened, but no sound came. He blinked once, twice. "Boromir." The steward stood, the horn falling with a clatter to the stone. "My son, you live." Boromir stepped forward. "The horn I lost at the falls of Rauros, in the battle that followed. I did not know it had made its way here so swiftly." Denethor crossed the room like a storm, and before his court of captains and counselors, he embraced his son. "I feared," his voice broke. "I feared I had sent my last and dearest to die." Boromir held his father a moment longer before pulling back. "I have returned, father, but not alone." He gestured behind him. Pippin entered with an awkward wave. "Hello." "Silence," Gandalf hissed at him before walking forward, staff in hand. And then came Saruman. The murmurs returned. Hands fell to sword hilts. Denethor's expression turned to stone. "You bring with you an enemy." "He is with us," said Gandalf, redeemed. "I find that unlikely." Boromir stepped between them. "He fought beside us." and he brings knowledge we may yet need." Denethor's eyes were sharp, searching Saruman's face for deceit. "And if this is another of your manipulations, Mithrandir?" Gandalf smiled thinly. "Then let him answer for it. When the war is done." Denethor relented with a dismissive wave and returned to his seat. "You return on the eve of war," he said to Boromir. "The enemy stirs. Already we see movements across the Anduin. It will not be long now." Boromir nodded. "Then we must prepare." "Very well," said Denethor. "Let us make counsel." The high chamber was chill despite the sun streaming in through narrow slits in the white stone. Beneath banners of the kings of old, the men gathered for counsel. At the center sat Denethor, steward of Gondor, draped in black like a crow nesting in a tomb. Saruman stood just behind Gandalf. "I will not forget your betrayal," Denethor said coldly, fixing Saruman with his gaze. "Your voice may be honeyed once more, but your crimes are not so easily undone." Saruman bowed his head slightly. "You mistake foresight for treason and repentance for weakness." Denethor scoffed. "Repentance? From the architect of orc furnaces and abominations that have killed our allies, the valiant men of Rohan?" Gandalf interjected firmly. "He stands with us now. His knowledge and help may well decide this war." "Then we are already lost," Denethor spat. The council fell silent. Boromir stepped forward, voice controlled. "Father, the walls are not yet breached, but they will be. The enemy masses. We must reinforce the outer defenses and call for Rohan's aid." Denethor waved a dismissive hand. "I have sent no riders. Rohan will not come. They have their own troubles. Let the tomb of Gondor be sealed by Gondorian hands, not Rohan's horses." Gandalf's eyes flashed. "You doom your people through pride." Denethor stood suddenly, his tone laced with venom. "Do not lecture me on doom, Mithrandir. I see more clearly than you. I perceive your designs. Do you think the White Tower is blind? The Dark One who now comes with this ranger from the north." His finger jabbed toward Gandalf and then Saruman. "Osgiliath burns while you play politics," Saruman snapped. "You waste time accusing us while Sauron tightens the noose." "Sauron?" Denethor cried, his voice cracking like dry wood. "Yes, I see his shadow. I know him. And I see the man who would supplant me." Gandalf stepped forward, thunder in his voice. "Enough. We are not your enemies." Denethor's face twisted. "You will not replace me with some black savage from foreign lands. Gondor will fall before I kneel to this dark-skinned brute." The room trembled with the force of the words. Even Boromir seemed shaken. "Authority is not given you to deny the coming of the Lord Goggins," replied Gandalf, scowling. Then Saruman, calm now but sharp as ice, tilted his head. "You speak with madness, and with knowledge beyond what you should possess." Denethor froze. Saruman stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. "You've seen him, haven't you? Not through your spies. Through something else." Denethor's mouth worked silently. Gandalf spoke quietly, eyes wide in realization. "The Palantir." Denethor turned sharply. "It is mine by right. You are being deceived by it," Saruman said loudly. "I once thought I too could master it." "You are not fit to touch it." Denethor roared, but he stumbled slightly as he stood, revealing a black velvet cloth crumpled behind the throne. A faint light pulsed beneath it. Gandalf moved swiftly. "Saruman!" he shouted. They seized the cloth together. Denethor drew a dagger, but Boromir stepped between them. "Enough, father." Gandalf pulled away the cloth. Beneath it sat the Palantir of Minas Tirith, resting in a black iron cradle. Its surface swirled with flickers of red and black, like the embers of a dying star. Saruman took one step back. "You have spoken to him?" "To Sauron?" "No," Denethor whispered. "I saw only truth, that which will come to pass." "You saw what he wanted you to see, fool," said Gandalf coldly. "Your despair, your downfall. That is the gift of the Eye." Denethor slumped back into his chair, drained. "The West is broken. Gondor will burn." "And so it will," Saruman said grimly. "Unless we stop it." Gandalf lifted the Palantir and turned away. "You will no longer be trusted with this. You may remain steward, but not if you serve the enemy's plans, even if unwittingly." Denethor said nothing. His eyes were empty. Boromir placed a hand on his father's shoulder, but received no response. As the council broke, Gandalf looked to Saruman and nodded once. "You did well." Saruman gave no reply, only staring into the distance, haunted. Outside, dark clouds gathered over the horizon. War was coming.
Thanks for joining us on this adventure. If you enjoyed the journey and are eager for more wild fan fiction, don't forget to hit that like button, share with your fellow fans, and subscribe for more episodes. And if you're as enchanted by the idea of Middle-earth meeting Hogwarts as we are, make sure to check out our series exploring this magical crossover. Your support brings these worlds to life. Until next time, keep the fantasy alive.